There's a story that a speaker came down from delivering their address, and someone came up to them and said, "Oh, you know, throughout your speech, I noticed that your wife was blowing you kisses." They said, "That's not really kisses. She was saying, 'Keep it short, stupid.'" I realize that perhaps last Shabbat I overloaded the congregation with too much information. So I will try to measure my words. One of the things that I would like to do is to at least give some of the knowledge that I have accumulated over the years and to transmit it to the congregation, especially since in these particular times when things are really rather schrecklich, they're terrifying, they're hard, and it's time just to study Torah and not to be too distracted by whatever happens during the particular days that we are living through. And so one of the things that I wanted to do is to explicate how the Talmud actually fashioned the way Jews live and think. And having gone through some explication of the Halakha, which is the norms on how one should behave, there is also another part of the Talmud known as Aggadah. And as I tried to explain, you know, Aggadah is an Aramaic word which is equivalent to the Hebrew Haggadah. And Haggadah means just the story. So the Haggadah Shel Pesach is the story of Pesach. The Aggadah that's found throughout the Talmud is an interpolation to the halakhic discussions. And these interpolations, Tana Agav Orche Kamashmalan, the teacher along the way happens to mention en passant, and sometimes the en passant is even more interesting and actually perhaps more enlightening than even the halakha. And so I was turning to the Yerushalmi, what is known as Yerushalmi Talmud, which is not really from Yerushalayim, because it was composed in the north of Israel, primarily in Tiberias, but also in parts from Caesarea as it's known, and other points, but mostly from Tiberias and the school of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nafcha. Now, in the first part of the Talmud is the discussion of brachot, which deals with the prayers. And one of the most important parts of that is the Shema. Now, I'm sure that most people in a conservative synagogue do not know what Sha'ot Zamaniot are. But in an Orthodox synagogue, you will know what Sha'ot Zamaniot are, which means these are the ways, you know, we think in terms of the time. I look at my watch and it's from now it's almost 11, a little past 11:30, but according to the way Jews actually tell time, it's known that from the time of sunrise to the time that night falls, that particular length of time is divided by 12, which not necessarily means that the hours are longer, they are sometimes longer or shorter, depending upon the time of the year. And the discussion in the Talmud, in the first part of the Talmud, the brachot, is when do you say the Shema? And the Shema is supposed to be said during the first quarter of the day, and then the Amidah from the first third of the day. In other words, the Shema comes to be said first, and then the Amidah. And you're not supposed to go past that time. But if you do, of course, you know, you're not going to go to hell. But the point is that this is the way in which the life was organized. And what I'm trying to say is this is the way life was organized in early Israel when Jews lived there. Now, in this whole discussion of when you say the Shema, it comes up that when do people, get up and when do they say it? And of course, there are people who sleep late. As a matter of fact, it was said in this particular discussion in the Talmud that kings usually sleep late. And so they sleep until at least a third or quarter of the day. And so this sort of gives a trigger to this beautiful story about King David. And what they do is what is always the way the rabbis work is they catch on to a line that comes from the Bible, usually from the second or third part of the Bible, especially now from the book of Psalms. And there in the book of Psalms is a very beautiful little sentence from Psalm 57, verse 9. And I've given that to you, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing here, but look what it says. Urah Kevodi, Urah Lechino A'ira Shacha. This is a psalm. I remember all psalms are supposedly from David. And what does the psalm say? Wake up my honor. Kevodi means my entire essence, my persona. Wake up. Then wake up the harp and the lute, and I shall awake the dawn. So the rabbis weave this wonderful story that, to put it short, David had a harp that was over his head. And when midnight came, the wind would come and rustle the strings of the harp, and David would get up and he would sing praises to God. So while the other kings slept late, David got up early in order to praise God. That's a beautiful little story which tells us, that the person who is really a homo religioso, a religious person, isn't going to wait just for what is acceptable, but will go beyond it to do what the rabbis say, lifnim min shurat hadin, to go beyond what is expected of us, to do that which is a little bit more. And here is this beautiful expression of David setting his harp so that he should awake the dawn. And now, for your listening and pleasure as well as your participation, this gives to a particular song, which is really very, very beautiful, and which I especially like. And I importuned our Hazzan, who is a mistress of music, to search, and found that I tried to sing it to her, and of course that failed. So she found it on the melody on YouTube, but it was really an operatic piece. The woman who sang it on YouTube was too operatic. I said, that's not going to go for our congregation. So I said to the Hazzan, let's try to teach this wonderful little melody that will teach us about David getting up with his harp and telling us about the importance of rising to praise God whenever we are getting up. And this is Urah. I noticed that I have some of them I put with transliteration. Urah Kevodi, Urah Hanevo, V'chinoa A'ira Shacha. Hazzan, it's all yours.
Thank you, Rabbi. It's actually a beautiful tune. And we're going to learn it first slow, and then we're going to speed it up, because that's how the way you're supposed to sing it. It's supposed to be very joyful, kind of a nigun. And I heard it in different versions. Some of them were with dancing. So let's learn it. The first part and then the second part. And the word Urah, let's all say it. Urah. Repeats 3 times every time. Okay, so it goes like this. Urah, Urah, Urah. Very nice. Urah, Urah, Urah Kevodi. Your turn. Urah, Urah, Urah hanevel. Urah, Urah, Urah hanevel. Hanevel vechinor. Hanevel vechinor. A'ira shachar. A'ira shachar. From the top, and we go. Urah, Urah, Urah Kevodi. Urah, Urah, Urah hanevel. Hanevel vechinor. A'ira shachar. Here's the second part. Urah Kevodi. Urah Kevodi. Urah hanevel. Urah hanevel. Hanevel vechinor. Hanevel vechinor. A'ira shachar. A'ira shachar. Second time. And Urah Kevodi. Urah hanevel. Hanevel vechinor. A'ira shachar. And we go. And Urah, Urah, Urah Kevodi. Urah, Urah, Urah hanevel. Hanevel vechinor. A'ira shachar. Ay, ay, ay. Urah, Urah, Urah Kevodi. Urah, Urah, Urah hanevel. Hanevel vechinor. A'ira shachar. Urah Kevodi. Urah hanevel. Hanevel vechinor. A'ira shachar. Lai, 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 lai. Ay, lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. A'ira shachar. We're going to go on tour together soon with this song. Thank you. And I'm going to continue with Musaf, right? Page 155, and we rise.
1 second, now you can say that you know a part of the Yerushalmi Talmud, and that beautiful song, perhaps we'll sing it some other time as well, is really, it speaks of true religiosity.